What is going on, fight fans? So today we're going to talk on a topic that has been brought up by a lot of people. Is Shakur ducking Tank? Let's jump right into it. Right off the bat, I'm going to say no, Shakur is not ducking Tank. It's not financially viable for him to want to duck Tank. It's not promotionally viable for him to want to duck Tank. It's not politically viable for him to duck Tank. There's absolutely no reason why Shakur would want to duck Tank. There's zero reasons. He's not even as popular as Tank. So even if he was to fight Tank and lose, he would gain more popularity, as opposed to if Tank was to fight him and lose, Tank wouldn't gain or lose popularity. There'll be less residual effects for Tank losing to Shakur than there is for Shakur losing to Tank. And if he goes and beats Tank, he becomes even more popular. So there's literally no angle where it makes sense for Shakur to want to duck Tank. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, maybe he's ducking him because he doesn't feel like he's ready to fight him. What? Okay, so the guy who's 3-division champion, who's won the world title he's the 4th fastest to win a world title in the history of the sport. He's the 4th fastest. The 4th fastest from 0 wins to, I believe, 13 wins. From 0 to 13, he was already a world champion. That guy who fights everybody at the top of the rankings isn't ready for the guy who literally finally, after a long drought, has finally won a world title, a vacant WBA championship title off of Frank Martin, who was not a champion. So the guy that's always fighting champions and the guy that's always defending his world title, the official belt, not the regular belt, the official belt, that's the guy who's not ready for Tank. Here's the problem. Here's the problem when it comes to Tank and Shakur. One guy is popular, Tank. One guy is not, Shakur. That is the difference. You have to be able to understand and compartmentalize the two things. Just because Tank is popular does not mean that Tank is better or more accomplished. Tank is just popular. And just because you're popular and you fight somebody else who's popular, that doesn't mean that you're more accomplished. Like Tank, a lot of people say, well, he fought Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia, you guys get popularity and accomplishments and difficulty all jumbled up. You think that because Ryan is popular and Tank is popular and that fight did over 1 million pay-per-views, that was a big fight. No. You know what else was a big fight? A really old Mike Tyson and a really old Roy Jones Jr. That was a big fight. You know what else was a big fight? Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. That was a big fight. That fight did around the same numbers that Crawford versus Errol Spence made. Stop getting caught up in the popularity contest. Y'all think that Tank is better than Shakur or more ready, or Shakur is not ready because you haven't seen Shakur on pay-per-view, or because Tank is more popular. No. If anything, Shakur is more experienced than Tank in terms of consistently fighting the top opposition. Just because you don't know them don't mean that they're not difficult. You guys chastise him for the Edwin De Los Santos fight. And y'all like to use the triangle theory with, oh, look what happened to him. If he get hit like that, imagine if look what Tank did to this guy. Imagine what he gonna do to Shakur if he did that. And then if Shakur, y'all like to do that, but then y'all like to pretend that the triangle theory don't exist when Edwin De Los Santos knocked out Rayo. And Rayo outclassed Pitbull Cruz, who gave Tank problems, and Tank couldn't knock him out. He ended Tank's knockout streak. But we're not going to talk about that, right? So Shakur Stevenson beats Edwin De Los Santos. Edwin De Los Santos knocked out Rayo. Rayo outboxed Pitbull Cruz. Now we talking about Tank versus Rayo. Stop it. Stop it with the low level conversations. We should be talking right here, and you guys want to talk down here because y'all just trying to black and white everything. Oh, well, is he popular? No, then he's not more accomplished. What? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Usyk more accomplished than all of them. Yet he's less popular than Tank. In America. He might be less popular than Shakur in America, but he more accomplished than all of them put together. Stop using popularity as the barometer for better. It's not better. It's just more popular. Ryan Garcia is not better than Oscar Valdez. He is more popular. See the difference? He is more popular. Ryan Garcia never won a world title, never fought at the top of the rankings. He's just more popular. That's it. That's it. Now, let's talk about the fact that he signed with Eddie Hearn, right? A 2-fight deal. Please explain to me how a 2-fight deal shows that he's ducking Tank. Please explain this to me. Because 2 fights means that he's going to fight Joe Cordina. He's going to end up fighting William Zepeda. And then he's open next year to fight Tank. Tank didn't want to fight Shakur this year. Tank was going to fight Rayo. And then, so explain to me, explain. Tank is probably going to fight Rayo by the end of this year or very early next year. Right around the time that Shakur Stevenson is going to fight. Right around the time that Shakur Stevenson is going to fight. Then if Shakur Stevenson turn around and fight somebody early next year or like right off of the first few months of next year, and then he open for a summer clash with Tank. How is he ducking Tank? Y'all make it seem like Shakur got so much power when y'all know he don't have no power. Y'all saying like, oh, why didn't he sign with the PBC? Well, what do you mean? What if the PBC didn't want to sign him? Do y'all even ask those questions? Y'all think this is the same thing y'all did with Floyd. Oh, Floyd ain't fight Manny Pacquiao. He waited until Manny. Why you waiting, Floyd? Why don't you fight Manny now? Why you, oh, here we go. 2014, still didn't fight him. 2015, oh, now you want to fight him now that he's old. Like, you guys, the person you don't like, all of a sudden, is Thanos. Could do this and could make any move he wants. And there's no agency to the other people that affect him. No agency. So y'all just think he could just sign with the PBC. But what if the PBC is like, nah, we don't want to sign you. Because maybe we don't have plans for you to fight Tank right now, so we don't want to sign you. We don't have somebody to line you up with, so what's the point? We don't want to sign you. Y'all ever thought about that? Y'all ever thought about maybe PBC don't want Shakur? Y'all don't think about none of that. Y'all don't think about none of that. What about the fact that maybe Shakur wanted to sign with the PBC and he wanted to do a Tank fight, but maybe Tank's team doesn't want to fight Shakur because Tank is the only one that can make that fight happen. Shakur cannot make that fight happen. Shakur could ask for it, but he cannot make it happen. Again, y'all act like y'all know the politics of boxing or what's going on, but y'all one-sided on everything. Y'all one-sided on everything. Now, is it possible that the PBC could have said, hey, do you want to fight Tank? And here's the, we'll make you fight Tank if you want. And he said, nah, I'm going to go to Eddie Hearn. Yeah, that's absolutely possible. Do I think that happened? Probably not, because of the rhetoric that Shakur Stevenson has been spewing. He wants to fight Tank. He says it in the ring. He says it out the ring. He says it in the post-fight press conferences. He says it in the post-fight interviews. He says it every time. He's always mentioning Tank. Tank's never mentioning him. Usually the person that's always mentioning the other person is the person that actually wants to fight that person. Stop it with all of this. Like, it's either you're not aware or are you just trying to gaslight your audience? It's one of those two things. It's one of those two things. There are things that are problematic with the Shakur Stevenson 2-fight deal. First thing being his Joe Cordina fight. I don't care for it. Joe Cordina came off of a loss, a bad loss. So I don't care for it. But I do appreciate the William Zepeda fight that's after. If you guys make it seem like he's Thanos, like he could just be like, nah, I'm doing a 1-fight deal and I'm only fighting William Zepeda. And you don't know what William Zepeda's team is saying. You don't know if Eddie Hearn's like, listen, we'll sign you, but we got to get more than one fight out of you. We're not here in the business of losing money. You don't know none of this stuff. But y'all swear y'all know, like he has all the power. Oh, he signed with Eddie Hearn for 2 fights. That means he doesn't want Tank. Like he could just be like, I'm now with the PBC. Like there isn't a conversation on the other side that the PBC has to make with him. And then, like, yeah, when he doesn't end up fighting Tank and he's fighting Joe Cordina, oh, why you don't want Tank? Like, Tank ain't the one that's supposed to send him the contract because it's Tank, the A side, who decides who he wants to fight, and not Shakur. Now, I'm going to end the video with this. I don't care for the Joe Cordina fight because a lot of you will probably be like, oh, man, you just defended Shakur. I've chastised Shakur every time it's warranted. His fight with De Los Santos, we chastised him here on this channel. And his pick of Joe Cordina, I said I don't care for it, but I get what if he had to do it, he has to do it. Like there's nothing that he could do, right? He has to get a fight in. If William Zepeda don't want to fight him right now, and they're gonna wait one more fight after this, he got to get a fight in. So what is he gonna just be iced until Tank decides he wants to fight? No. Because then y'all gonna be like, oh, you've been inactive. The same thing y'all was saying to Crawford. So miss me with all that. Y'all have endless corners in the room where you could corner somebody. So no matter what move they make, you're ready. It's like, well, does he go that way? Okay, this is my script for if he goes that way. He went this way. I got a script for if he goes that. Oh, he went straight down the middle. I got a script if he goes straight down. It don't matter what move he makes. If he fights nobody, he's inactive. If he doesn't fight Tank and he fights Joe Cordina, he's ducking Tank. It doesn't matter. And also, I do want to mention his whole pay-per-view thing. This is the most convoluted thing I've ever heard in my life. He's on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev. However, Bivol versus Beterbiev is the main event, but it isn't on pay-per-view. However, Shakur Stevenson is on pay-per-view, and he will headline the pay-per-view, which is the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev. Bivol versus Beterbiev is on ESPN Plus, which is only $4.99 a month, and that is going to be available on ESPN Plus for everybody to watch, but the undercard won't be available on ESPN Plus for everybody to watch. What the undercard will do is it will have Joe Cordina and Shakur Stevenson main eventing that undercard, which will be on pay-per-view, which is the super stack card that they just made with Riyadh season. So he's on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev, yet Bivol versus Beterbiev will be on ESPN Plus, and his fight will be on DAZN pay-per-view. That is the most convoluted thing I've ever seen in my life. And if they're trying, this could be tricky, right? This could trick a casual consumer to think that they could watch the Beterbiev versus Bivol fight on this DAZN pay-per-view. And when they find out that they can't, even though it's the undercard, that's going to be a big backlash to DAZN, in my opinion. But also, Shakur versus Joe Cordina, that is your debut pay-per-view bout, bro. You're probably going to make a lot of back-end money because this is, Riyadh season and all that. But they are going to point at those pay-per-view numbers, and they are not going to be pretty. They're not going to be pretty. I'm almost sure that they're not. However, I can't say, I'm like 85, 90% sure. We're going to be looking at the stats. We're going to be following this. But from the early impressions, I'm pretty sure that those numbers are not going to do well. They're not. Regardless of how stacked it is, they're not going to do well. That's going to be numbers that Tank's team could point at. Those are going to be numbers that they could point at and be like, this is a pay-per-view you headline. And look what you got. So we don't want to fight you. We want to fight somebody who never did pay-per-view, but he just happens to be Spanish. And people are going to let that logic rock. So I think this is a mistake. At least if it was Bivol Beterbiev and that was pay-per-view and you were on the undercard of that pay-per-view, that's not your pay-per-view. That's their pay-per-view. So you could just be like, listen, hey, man, that wasn't my pay-per-view. That wasn't my debut. I was on a pay-per-view undercard, but that's their pay-per-view. So he can't do that anymore. Now they could be splitting hairs. You could say, but this is really technically the Bivol fight, but it technically isn't because they're not on pay-per-view, and it's the most convoluted thing ever. It's the most convoluted thing. But circling back, so just to show that we give our criticisms to Shakur Stevenson 100%, but circling back to if he's ducking, absolutely not. The man only talks about wanting to fight Tank. Why would he talk about wanting to fight Tank if he doesn't actually want to fight Tank? Why would he do that? There's no upside to not fighting him. There's no upside to fight. There's no downside if he fights and he loses. There's no downside if he fights and he wins. There's no downside if he fights and he draws. There's no downside. There's no downside. He'll be way more famous if he fights Tank and loses than if he doesn't fight Tank at all. Look at Pitbull Cruz. There's no downside to it. But y'all think that, oh no, he's trying to do. He's not. It makes more sense for him to want to fight Tank. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Y'all got to open your minds to way more than thinking that every single fighter you hate is Thanos. Y'all thought Floyd Mayweather was Thanos. Floyd Mayweather was way more Thanos than Shakur Stevenson is right now, and y'all still got Shakur Stevenson in that Thanos spot. Talking about, oh, I just want to be with the PBC. They don't even need to talk to me. I'm just going to show up, and now I'm a PBC fighter. Don't work like that, guys. Anyways, until the next one, peace out.